Hello, 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 and welcome to a new, very special edition of the Developer Rivals 2 Developer Stream. I'm Dan Fernacey, studio lead. I'm joined here by our lead producer, Matt Worrell. How you feeling today, Matt?
Hello. Good. Feeling good.
Hello, 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 and welcome.
Sorry.
I was like, is that from me? I usually do that, but that came from Matt's speaker.
That's right. That's right. I got the stream pulled up just so I can see what I look like. Make sure I don't have any boogers hanging out my nose. So.
I don't see any.
Nice.
Cool. So today we're going to do a little bit talking about the roadmap for people who tuned into the panel. We'll give a little bit more information. I've got something beautiful in this chair. And then for people who missed it, it'll kind of be a recap of that. But before we get into that, Matt, what does the lead producer of Ether Studios do every day? What do you do?
So I would say my main job is just to make sure that the expectations that we have for the studio are being met. So, and a lot of those expectations are set by Dan. So Dan is the studio director. So when Dan says jump, I say how high, and I make sure that everybody is not in the way when we land. Then yeah, it's mostly just making sure this team of about 30 people all around the world they have what they need to get their jobs done. They have the expectations of what they need to do laid out and the timetables to make everything work together. Is the concept art there when we need to move to 3D, and is 3D done we need to implement in game, and do we have enough time for testing and da 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 da. So it's a lot of scheduling and just relationships, working with people. I really love my job. I think I'm good at it. But yeah, that's basically what a producer does at Ether Studios.
So, do you think indie games in general? A lot of indie teams are pretty small. I think Silksong just came out. It's like what three core people. So, a lot of indie teams don't have a designated producer. So, what is your opinion? Do you think indie games should have producers? Like, what's your thought there?
Yeah, it really depends on the team and the structure of how things work. I think there should be more producers in indie development. And the very few indie developers that I've talked to, they always praise their producer, talking about how it's so great to have a producer and somebody to make the vision come to pass. I recommend, like, if a studio gets to about 10 people, it's time to start thinking about a producer. You get diminishing returns on, it's always the designer, the head of the studio, the person who brought this thing into existence, that is the one that's ultimately being the producer. And they fall back on it, like, I need sound in my game, so they start bringing in a sound person, start scheduling that person. I need art in my game, and they bring in somebody. It's pretty easy to manage. It's just like, it's pretty obvious what needs to happen. But then when it gets about 10 people, then you just start being the producer. And then now you're not doing what you need to do, which is run the studio and design and create the vision for the game. And so bringing somebody on, which is where I was hired at Ether Studios. I was about the 10th hire on the team. And I came in with, Trevor telling you, like, hey, Dan, we need to hire a producer. This is getting ridiculous. And you starting a family and just needing more, like, not being able to just devote 100% of yourself to the project. So, yeah, it was, I think it's a very important role for an indie studio. And, I don't just do production. It's not just me managing people. That's the majority of my job, but I've written design docs. I review all the applicants to the studio. I do budgeting. I do a lot of things outside of just production.
Yeah. Trevor was probably because, honestly, I probably gave him tasks that were similar to production, and he was like, "I don't want to do this. We need help right now." And then we did. We hit up Matt. When did you start at Ether Studios? You remember your first month?
Was it January 2020?
I think so. I think it was as we were gearing up for. Wait. No, was it 2021? I
I can't
thought
remember.
I thought we had already started development on Rivals 2 when you started. Am I imagining that?
Yeah, I mean you had, but like Rivals 2 was,
Well, Trevor
under.
started in October of 2020. I remember vividly because we launched the definitive edition, and then Trevor was like, "See ya." And then Trevor, Corey, and Mafu were kind of like the original team. So it's either 2020 or 2021. It was around there. Maybe you did start before Rivals 2, and it was just on Rivals and our spin-offs.
I know I got brought in when Dungeons was very early on.
Yeah.
So
Dungeons was teased in the 2020 April Fools, the direct. So maybe, yeah, maybe January 2020. That would make sense. Around there.
Gosh, I'm not working for you for too long, man.
It's
No,
okay.
January 2021.
2021?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Rivals.
I'm coming up on 5 years. That's right. I thought I was at 5 years. Okay.
Rivals 2 would have started, but it was just. Speaking of Hollow Knight, it was a 3-person team when Matt would joined in Rivals 2. I mean, I was kind of on it, but not really. Trevor is the gameplay lead, and he also kicked off the Rivals 2 engine, which is built in at the time Unreal Engine 4. Now it's in Unreal Engine 5. And Trevor was the only programmer, and then we had Corey on our team, who was our tech artist, the rigger. Also, Corey did all the initial animations as well. And then we had Mafu, who was our modeler and designing how all the characters and stuff would look.
The great thing about indie studios is like everybody has to do a lot of things, right? Like Corey had to do all of it, and Trevor had to do all of it. There was the like design, engineering. I bet Trevor was probably making VFX too, and so was Corey.
Yeah, we had a couple artists we hit up for 2D effects. I remember that we had worked with back in the intros with Studio Yada. We also had a guy, Nico, who did like the initial Fire Capital stage. But if you go back to that very early teaser, the 2021 teaser, where Adam just reveals that we have a 3D game, you can see Corey's animations because Diego started right after that, and all of those animations of Zetterburn were Corey, and he was just basing it off of Rivals 1. So that's OG animation. Cool. Well, that's a little history run, but instead of history, let's talk about the future. So we're going to, with our lead producer here, talk about the roadmap that we revealed at Evo a month ago. So Matt, I'll give you the low-hanging fruit 2025. Walk us through the rest of the year, where we're at.
Yeah. So for the rest of the year, we are working on advanced tutorials. So we're hoping to have that done this year. We're a little behind because there's a lot of pickup work from intermediate tutorials. We need to do some bug fixing and some polish on the existing tutorials, so I'm a little worried about getting that out before the end of the year, but I think we're on track to get that done. Crew battles are also expected to be out this year. We haven't tested it yet, so that's also big red flag. So we might miss our internal deadline for that, but that's okay. It's going to come out this year, and that's all good. And then new character Galvin coming out in October. Feels weird to say because it's been under wraps for so long. I feel like I might be, FBI might be breaking through my door to not spoil anything. But no, we announced him. So the new Earth character, Metal Bender Galvin, is coming out, which I think is a really exciting character because it's like the first one that's kind of new to the lore, right? Like Flea is new to Rivals 2, but it came from Dungeons, and Loxodon has been in the ethos for a long time. So really neat to see a new character with a backstory and new to the lore be added to the game, kind of Rivals 2 branching out. And then trying to think of anything else. I mean, of course, we've got all the events coming out. It's the pirate event right now. I think the mid-month that's going to be announced, next week. It's gonna surprise a lot of people, and we've been really looking forward to this skin for a while. I'll leave that there, and then you can expect what's coming up with the anniversary. We'll probably go back to those skins that a lot of people liked from our launch last year, and then as well the skins that came out on launch. We'll do a theme related around that stuff, and then you can expect what's coming in December. So that team is doing really well, trying to get ahead of everything. The big thing is trying to figure out what we're doing next year. That's another thing about production is like you're always to do your job right. No one should be stressed, but to make sure no one is stressed, you're thinking 6 months in advance. But also being adaptive to whatever's coming around the corner. So yeah, I think that kind of covers everything for 2025. Am I forgetting anything major?
No.
What Joe's working on. Can I talk about that?
Yeah, because I was on the roadmap for this year. In the last roadmap, we just didn't write it down. But yeah, you can talk about it.
Yeah, so SDL. So we're adding features to where you can have better controller customization, especially with keyboard, and we can have multi-keyboard, and plugging that more into what Unreal expects. And so it should be. I mean, you can speak to this better. I just know that Joe is working on SDL. It's a problem.
Yeah, so in the roadmap last year, there was a flag for 2025 called controller update, or even controller overhaul, we might have called it. So right now, Rivals 2 uses raw input, which allows us to use the GameCube adapter as long as you have, the Zadig drivers installed. It also allows us to use, Xbox, PlayStation, everything else. We have been planning on switching over. The main reason being, if you're on Linux or you're on a Steam Deck, GameCube controller is very difficult right now with raw input. Like you literally have to kind of like boot camp your computer to install the drivers and then go back. Once they are installed, then you can go back to SteamOS or Linux, and then you can play GameCube, which is a lot to ask for TO. One of my long-term goals is like I really want to get our studio to the point where the Steam Deck could be a viable tournament platform for Rivals 2. So that means both optimization and controllers need to work well. That way we can, as TOs are looking to run the game, even after consoles come out, there might be people who want to play on all types of controllers. So we're using Steam Deck as a guide, which kind of motivated us to go from raw input to SDL. At the same time, because we knew we were going to do this, there's been a lot of controller bugs and changes and improvements to customization that we wanted to make, but we knew we were going to wait till we did this overhaul. So Joe is not only changing the input, we also have some more customization coming. So the big one I'm excited for is supporting mouse with keyboard, because I know there are Brawlhalla players who that is their main controller scheme. So that's a big one, is like getting mouse input in. As Matt mentioned, multi-keyboard is still something. Right now, Rivals 2 does support it, but it will have better support just because we'll have time to fix more of the bugs that came up. Along with that, fixing some of the keyboard bugs that have kind of been plaguing the game for a little bit, like depending on your setup and your keyboard you're using, if you hit too many buttons at once, it just doesn't register. So just, finding workarounds now that we have a new controller input. And then also fixing some of the focus bugs that come up. So for anyone who plays the game on 2 monitors, you might be aware that depending on where your mouse is located, certain controls go through and some don't. So that's like a set of bugs that we know we need to fix, and they've been on our bug list basically since launch. But because we knew this controller revamp was coming, we just haven't fixed them yet. So all of those are kind of grouped together into a big controller overhaul update, along with some UI that our team's working on, which we'll keep a little under wraps for a little longer, just so it can be cool when we announce. But those are the controller updates that were listed in 2025, and they're still targeting this year. It's just we're getting closer to the end of the year, so we'll get it out for sure. And if we don't, we'll let you know why and when it's coming. But we're still targeting for the last quarter of this year for those.
Yeah, and it's a big update, and it's a nervous update, right? Because the majority of our fan base is very competitive, and when you go in and you update the controls, right? Everything that all the minute little details they have to make the game feel just right for them, how they play, all that gets updated. And so like you can't come in and just put out unfinished work. We need to test it thoroughly. We need to send it to our beta team. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of testing before we're feeling confident about releasing it, because we don't want to mess up, the controls as they are.
Yeah. So let's go into 2026. I'll let you kick through it, Matt, since I did it at Evo.
Right on. Yes. So the thing that everyone's most excited about is the 4 new characters. We're trying to hit this cadence of 4 new characters. Something that I'm very responsible for, just making sure that all the pieces are there. We recently hired an animator to help us do this lift. We were kind of able to do 4 characters a year, but everything was always nervous. Like if there was a character that had, certain pieces that were hard to animate, character took longer. And so it that 4-month window we had with our 2 animators to get character done was stressed. And so we've hired another animator to help pick up little things to make it to where it's just less to do for each character, and that's been a huge help. And so we're feeling just more consistent with being able to deliver those 4 characters on time. Steam Workshop, that's a huge feature. It was one of the biggest, actually probably the biggest feature in Rivals 1, which made the game kind of explode, and that we're hoping that that's going to be the same case for Rivals 2. We realized that our community is going to be able to create more content than we ever will, and so passing the torch to them to kind of create fun, wacky content, the casual content we keep hearing from our community and we want to address ourselves. We're hoping that, through the addition of this feature, there's always going to be something new in the game that's worth checking out. So hopefully that works out great. And it's going to be a big challenge, because custom characters, when you're dealing with pixel art and smaller, less moves and all that in Rivals 1 was pretty, it was casual, it was easy. Now we're 3D. Now we got, got to download a whole mod kit, and it's quite a challenge to make a character in 3D. And so we're going to see if Rivals 2 Workshop is as prolific. I like to think in the time that has passed since the Rivals 1 Workshop, the modding community has also leveled up and is able to, mod in 3D no problem. So I'm very hopeful for Workshop. Item mode. This is another feature that's going to address the casual content that we've been hearing from fans, and something that is my personal hobby horse at the studio. Like, I am not very good at the game, but I love Super Smash Brothers, playing item mode, grabbing the hammer, and beating up some people. And is it fair? Is it competitive? No. Is it fun? Yeah. So we want to do something similar where a random item can change the course of a game, and you can kind of have a blast in the bounce house with your friends. We're hoping item mode does that. It will be limited. It's going to be just thrown items to start. We'll see if the mode picks up. We could do more there, but for now, we're going to do thrown items. There's actually a
Oh, Matt, your Discord died.
No.
Oh, he's back. I was going to finish your sentence for
All right,
you. You're back.
Cool. Anywho, so yeah. Go great. There's a lot of things. Game development's hard. So yeah, I was trying to sneak it in. The good news is that now I think the feature is farther ahead than it would be. So that's the good news. And so there's going to be more testing. So yeah. And then Ether stages, we've already started working on those. Really excited for those as well. Those are just gonna be fun stages. Like think of what's in Smash with things that can bonk you. Yeah. Legendary skins. Yeah, Dan. Legendary skins.
Yeah, we put that on there.
Yeah.
I think people knew this category was coming because we have other legendary items, right? There's trying to think what's in the game. There's like icons, right? Animated icons, I think, are legendary. So like we obviously have the delineation. But what's your opinion on legendary skins, Matt?
I think they're an awesome feature. The thing about it though is like, how do you introduce it? How does it interact with the players? Does it need to be a spectacle? You know,
How much
I think it's
fanfare
better.
at their
Yeah,
release? Because we've had some ideas. If you look at our design docs for legendary skins, there's some crazy stuff. We'll see what we have time to release. The first one, as we reveal here, tease here, is Renburn over Zetterburn. So that's his dada.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what we'll commit to other than it will be a legendary skin. I think custom VFX for sure, so it'll have its own visual effects, which some epics do. I want to make sure it's got its own VO, so its own voice acting separate from Zetterburn. Either whether that's different lines or just or new actor, right? In some cases, depending on the character. And then a lot of the team, this one's not confirmed, but I'll throw a little soft confirm in. I think, Matt, we could do it, is a results animation. That's the one that a lot of the team is excited for, right? Legendary skins having their own results animation instead of the characters. I think we can say that's the plan. So if they don't, just know that something happened. And we could not do that. But as of right now, that's the plan.
We're kind of relying on our team's availability. Early on in the design of Rivals 2, we wanted many results animations. We had like 3 per character, and we were going to make it to where you can unlock them and we could release them later as cosmetics. And then, it did not work that way. Like, I started this by saying how, contingent the 4 characters a year are on animation. And so it became very obvious very quickly that we are barely going to get 1 result animation per character. Fortunately, now we're in a healthier spot where we can start thinking about like, okay, what if we did, at a instead of 4 a year, what if we added an extra one to do a legendary skin? What if we added 2? So that's really exciting. I'll go ahead and say it because you can clearly see the model in the graphic. Renburn, the model, has been done for a very long time. Gosh, what do you say, Dan? Was that like what skin of Zetterburn?
It was like the 3rd Zetterbird skid. It was so early. Yeah, like literally in UE4, like Trevor and I playing on Parsec before he got like a version of GGPO set up as like our first testing. I think we were using Renburn. I think we were using the Renburn skin.
Yep. No, it's not done. The skin is not done. It needs.
I think we're gonna need to update it. Yeah, polish it.
Yeah, we've done a VFX pass, but we probably will revisit that. And
I think we need to do a Mafu pass on him for sure, and like make sure he's matching like the quality of the current skins.
Yeah, but yeah, like we just want that to feel special because it's it's gonna cost more than other skins. It's a legendary skin. It should. And then. Yeah, I think, Dan, could you answer this question? How expensive are legendary skins expected to be? Do we know?
I don't know. In the OG design doc, it was really simple, right? It was like rares are worth 10, epics are 15, legendaries are 20. But we've kind of like, that's their cost in terms of, if you just bought the skin by itself for Ether bucks. But then we tend to do like bundles, right? So even though the epic is 15, like we throw a bunch of stuff of value in the bundle, so you're not paying 15 when you get it. Same thing with the rares, like they're 10, but then you get 3 of them in the mid-month bundle. So like I think in terms of Ether bucks, probably that's what the ratio is going to be. But I don't know how much it's going to cost if you just buy it, right? Like I don't know if we'll do like a fancy $20 bundle that comes with more stuff, or if we'll make it cheaper if you buy it for money. But yeah, I think the Ether bucks price would probably be the 20.
Yeah. But yeah, like we want to hear from you all too. Like, does it when we announce this bundle, does it feel, right? Because there's going to be a lot more than just the skin in that bundle. Does it feel like it's worth the cost? And then obviously, like, play with the skin, and hopefully the sound and the VFX sound, it feels like one of the coolest skins in the game. It needs to be. So that's really like what we're pushing for. And then can we get all the other bells and whistles alongside it to go with it? So
yeah, and the nice thing about legendary skins compared to, like Matt was saying, like if we had committed to that, let's say we put an extra result into the progression, right? So you could, at level 50, you unlock your second result animation. That would mean every new character would require a second result, which means we're committing to 4 new results a year, as you mentioned. If we say, hey, every legendary skin gets a result, it's up to us, right? The cadence, right? Yeah. If we could
less legendary skins.
Exactly. There could just be 1 next year. There could just be 2, right? And they could be spread out. Maybe Renburn's the first half of the year. There's another character in the second half. There's no like pushing treadmill, forcing legendary skins out, which means we can go a little more. We can get a little cooler with like the effects and the quality, because there's nothing forcing more out. Whereas anything we add to character progression, like we're very cognizant of what kind of work that does. And even if we weren't initially, we are now, because we've released 3 characters. Galvin's our 4th. We know Walls has to update arcade mode. We have to break the targets. We have to make, the mint palette. We have to make the abyss skin. We have to make all of the icons, emotes that come with the default character, especially for characters that are new, like Galvin, where it doesn't even have any from Creatures of Ether that we can pull from. So Elian is still animating those emotes. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So now it's like, anytime we're biting off on something new, we do want to make sure that we can, it's not required, right? So same thing with the new critical hits that we just added. That's a new cosmetic type that was in the ABSA mid-month bundle in August. Just being able to like release those as we go, and there's nothing, requiring a new one each time makes it
they're hard to do,
less stressful,
because they're like, unlike death effects, they happen over the main screen, and so like they can't be too distracting, and so you can't just willy-nilly throw out ideas on like death effects, or just a little more fun off the stage. We did have a question about legendary. Will legendary skins be a differently named character every time?
That's the plan. So that's kind of what, along with the results animation, it will be a different character. So just like Craig gets on character select, they will have their name on the menus instead of the character name.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I said no to I'm that guy at the studio. It's really fun, where everyone goes, oh, we got to name him Craig instead of Crag. And I go, well, it's too late. We're past the Rubicon. We cannot do this. And then I come to find out on release day, well, somebody did it. Somebody figured out the tech to do it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I was with you too, because the problem is when they were going on the rename, it's like
too late. My thing, yeah.
Yeah, renaming it in PlayFab, right, is the problem, right? Where it's like, okay, well now it has 2 different indexes and everyone gets confused, and now it's like you're searching for the character and you can't find it because you typed Crag instead of Craig. So like that part I was with Matt, but then Joe or someone on our team was like, well, actually the name that displays on character select is like this custom string that's like separate from all of the like identification. And then they just did it. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, if you could do it that way, that's fine. Because I also get stressed out when we're like trying to change the ID names, even of things when it's a typo and you have to correct it later. It's tough, because if everyone's used to the typo and you have code pointing at the typo, it's like, okay, you can correct it, but like you have to do the work and make sure that everything is now updated. So
oh, I was worried that it's like, is there going to be like a new character in the sort? Whenever you're in like your inventory, it's like, oh, there's this who's the new character? Craig.
Yeah, Craig, right. No, I get it. Yeah. Once we found out that like that specific string display name was super separate, it made me less worried. But yeah, I remember being on your side, which normally I'm not. I'm the person who's pushing for fun, and Matt's like, no, don't break things. But I was
I mean, my
also,
spec did first.
I mean, I worked on Rivals 1 and I broke a lot of things. So I was also like, please, let's not break things. And then, yeah, Joe and the team were like, nah, man, it's cool. We got it.
I see a lot of questions about story mode. We're gonna address new menus and then get right to that. So, new menus. We've been working on for a hot minute. We hired Kylan on our team to be our lead UI UX lead UI UX
Designer,
developer.
yeah, I would say.
Yeah. And then so we've got what the new menus are going to look like. We've started implementing. We have hired an engineer to help with that implementation. Not It's too early in the game to like give an idea of when those are going to come out. Like let's see what an updated menu looks like and how long it takes to do before we can definitively say like this is the lawn dart of where we think it's going to release. But the good news is that the big pull for why we want to do this, we were like, wow, we missed a lot of menus, or not missed, like we had to cut a lot of menus for release, like stats and profiles and a lot of these things, because like we can get into like the reason why we launched the way we did, but like we wanted them there. They should have been there. That was the scope of the game, but we didn't get them. So if we're gonna do all these new screens, more content and features in the game, which is awesome, we want them to be of the same style. And so we know we want to overhaul the look of the UI. It came in last minute when we were originally launching. Let's update the menus, and then that way that new style can be translated to these new menu features. So really excited about all that. And so I think the goal is that we want, when we get this game out to players in consoles and elsewhere, we want the game to feel like a AAA title, like they would expect from a normal fighter. And so it's kind of blending that, what Rivals is with also those expectations that you have with other games of our genre.
Yeah, for sure. And then some of these menus too. Matt mentioned Kylan, but Gabe on our team, who's our UI artist, he mocked these up. You go look at the Trello cards, and the mock-ups were submitted like October 2024 on like character progression and stats. That's because, as Matt mentioned, like we were trying to get these, for launch, and then just weren't able to. And then we had other fires that the UI team was putting out. So yeah, getting a new UI engineer in who's starting this month is very exciting for us to kind of have more bandwidth to get some of these menus. My most anticipated one that I want is like using those profile screens for like a match history. Especially for me, for something like ranked, I want to be able to like see a sliver of like a rank set, like who won, what characters, what was each player's ELO at the beginning, what was the ELO change. Because man, sometimes some nights I go on the opposite of a good, I go on a tilt and I lose like 10 matches in a row, 10 sets in a row rather. And then I just really want that screenshot. I just want to post that to Reddit or Twitter and be like, man, it's been a great night. Just especially because a lot of times when I go on a tilt, it's all game threes. So I want a screenshot where I can show just all the losses that I accrued in one night and then go to bed. So that's something that for sure that I'm targeting. There's a couple other menus that we're targeting as well. There's some like little improvements that people on our team has suggested kind of a while ago that we've wanted. One request that we're finally working on the design for is being able to set your character but use a random skin. Trevor has like a pretty good idea on how he wants it to work, where you can like hold the skin change button down and let it like and it like if you hold it through the readying process, it will random at the end. If you let go, then it'll just set one for you and you can like melee decide if you want it. So that sounds pretty cool to me. I kind of like that idea, like a little like rolling random. But that's something that I've seen like streamers mention as well. It's like, hey, I don't want to play a random character, but I have a lot of skins and I want to pick a random one. So that's something that we'd like to get in before the end of this year as well, kind of included in those menus updates. And then yeah, that would wrap us up. It's not much long. Like for us, it's funny because 2026 almost feels over in the sense that if we're not working on it right now, oh sorry, 2026, 2025 almost feels over because if we're not working on it right now, then it's not going to be in 2025, right? So like everything that's left, everything we talked about already, like the controllers and crew battles and advanced tutorials, those are already underway. And then anything else will probably be, into next year just because, like any team, December is like a half a month, half a month of work and a half a month of holidays. So, yeah, we're getting close to the end of the year. So with that, what happens after 2026, Matt?
Well, real quick, I want to answer a question. Someone asked, like, why is Armando in there? Is going to be a Timba character? Yes, that's the character we're working on internally to kind of prove out the tools. So we're making sure Workshop is we're testing it internally by building a character. So
Armando is the new Sandbird.
Yes.
Cool. He's beautiful.
So what is beyond? Yes. So custom colors, we have a design. It's been Dan's hobby horse for a long time. I really want it. Dan really wants it. Just the pieces are not there on the team, but that's changing. We're hiring to correct that. So it was basically we were in like, I don't want to say damage control, but like everything that we were adding to the game, UI was just being able to fulfill that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we weren't able to like break out and do new things.
Yeah, it was either the 2025 roadmap, so the things that we committed to, like crew battles, or things that we committed to at launch that came out later or we had to fix later, or bug fixes, right? Those are like the three things for all of this year. But yeah, as Matt mentioned, we're trying to be able to do more.
Like we've talked about, UI is kind of the biggest. I want to say it holds us back, but like, yeah, there's it's just kind of we didn't expect that we would need so much menu work for this game, and yeah, it's coming because we're hiring towards addressing exactly that. Like, you see Buddies on there. Buddies is going to be a huge menu UI adventure.
Something, right? Yeah.
So it'll be good to have the team cooking at that point where it's not just like, oh well, all the Buddies design and models and animation are there, but UI is way behind. So we're building the team to address those needs. And then so that's custom colors.
One thing
Dan, do we want to start off
I'll add about custom colors that's good is for a little bit it wasn't just the UI, it was also like the design of how is it going to integrate into our progression, right? And everything. I will say, and also how are you going to customize, right? Because there's, compared to Rivals, it's like, every character just had a set number of colors. Some characters were 5, some characters were 7, some were 9. And once you knew that, it wasn't too bad to make the UI because we would just be like, okay, it's a list with a maximum of 11 slots or whatever. In Rivals 2, it's harder. But Jamie on our team, who is our lead skin 3D artist, he wrote up a design doc for custom colors that I think satisfies kind of everything. You can actually, if you really zoom in on this roadmap image, you get like a little peek. This is a mock-up from his doc. And you can kind of see like, not only will you set the defaults, you can even go down to the nitty gritty and like change VFX, articles, things like that. So there's like a lot of customization you can do, even more granular than Rivals 1. And the reason for all of those is because that is how it is programmed in code, right? That's how it's set up in Unreal, which means, and Jamie knows that because Jamie and Corey made this system in Unreal and they've been updating skins, for years now to be able to add more control that they need. So the design is there. We have a way it's going to integrate into the cosmetic flow, right? With coins, bucks, whatever, etc. That I think is going to be pretty good and feel good for players, right? Like you'll be able to customize and get slots and things like that. Like you'll be able to add more customization basically if you want to opt into it. So that part I feel good about. So now, like, the reason it's in Beyond and it's not in 2026 is, as Matt mentioned, menu work, right? And we have other menus that we know we want to get done first. But I think, you know, in an ideal world, maybe custom colors is the one feature on here that we could move up into 2026 if things are going well.
Yeah. Can I tell them about the failed custom colors design? How we were originally going to monetize it?
Yeah, you can talk about it a bit because I don't think we're gonna do it, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. So originally, the thing that kind of like kneecapped it for launch was it was going to be paired with buddies, and it was going to be like you gain these berries per match, and then you could turn the berries into something that you could give your buddies, and then also you could use to make dyes for all the skins. I
Mm-hmm.
love this design.
It was
But then, yeah,
ridiculous because then we were like, certain colors are harder to make, right? We're like, oh, you gotta combine like these berries, this amount of
if you
berries.
want yellow, you got to get the green berries.
Yeah.
It was it was a lot.
I think it would have been funny, but no, it was too complicated. And also going back to UI being our not a pain point, but like our something that we're limited on. Yeah, making a system like that, which is all UI, to
Yeah,
like
and then
explain it.
giant math equations like, and this is your total for bucks and coins because of the how many berries you had, and blah, blah, is just very corporate.
Yeah.
And but the nice thing about that, it would like encourage you to play different elements, right? So like I think you get like more blueberries from playing water characters, so there's something to that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but probably not what we want to do. We probably want to like play the character you want to play.
I know
Not like
that's the other thing we balanced it on design is like, do you want to force people to play the roster or you want to just let people play who they want? I mean, as of right now, we just let people play who they want, and I think that's what you'd want. But like, if the mode is purely more fun and casual, right? Like if berries were mostly all funneling into things that are more casual, then I don't know. You can make the argument either way.
right.
But yeah, I think buddies buddies are still berries is still on the table for them, but yeah, I think removing it from custom colors is probably the right idea.
Yeah, and it just lets the feature stand on its own, and we can freaking release it without like thinking like, oh, here comes the berry wars
or the berry economy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. Story mode. A lot of people have been asking about story mode. How many chapters? When is it? Why isn't it out now? Come on. Yes. So story mode was supposed to be part of the launch of the game. We had a whole story mode team. We were building chapter 1. If you were at PAX in 2022, was it? You could have played chapter story mode.
No, 23, right? Right before the Kickstarter.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, before the Kickstarter, but not before launch. Sorry, I'm getting my years mixed up. Yeah, so 2023. We worked really hard on it, and yeah, it was the reason it was a very far stretch goal, and I hurt for the team that, saw like, oh, so story mode, it's gonna get cut if we don't hit this mark, and it's just the reality, unfortunately, of how game development goes. Dan and I were a horse and pony show for over a year, pitching Rivals 2 to investors, trying to be able to keep the team and release the game that we expected. And it was just a terrible time to be asking for money for indie studios. Actually, really for any video game studio. Like we heard from a lot of our friends in the industry of like, investment is just dried up. And so that's why we went the Kickstarter route. I think it is probably healthier for the studio anyways in the long term. Being the size that we are and how we do things, it's allowed us to just release and get feedback and kind of have this, feedback loop with the community of what we can and should do. So that's been good. But yeah, the unfortunate side effect is we had to scope the game down and therefore postpone story mode. Now, there's a reason story mode is there before console launch. We want story mode to be in a really good spot when we bring in all these new players for console launch. So that's kind of the logic there.
Yeah, in my mind, we would test it before, but I'd like it to go, they'd go at the same time, right? So just like Rivals 1, we had that definitive edition, and that launched on Steam the same day that Switch came out back in 2020. I think Story Mode Chapter 1 would launch, side by side with consoles in my mind.
Which I'm very energized by our team. They really want to work on consoles. A lot of the developers are excited to port, and I think that is so strange and does not track with.
Yeah, I know a lot of indie teams would outsource that work, but we got some people. We got Joe on our team, who's our
Tom as well.
Yeah,
Tom wants to do it too.
So yeah, you're right.
And like in my time at working at Ilphonic and 6 Foot, like that was kind of seen as like the like you're saying, like the porting work. Like we could not muster the engineering might at our studio because we couldn't rally the troops, right?
Right.
So, but I love how enthusiastic, and then it comes from the passion of wanting to get this game in front of more people, which is awesome. And I think we could be doing that work now, so that when story mode is ready, it's just gonna be easy to port it, right? So
yeah,
I think those two things will be in development at the same time. At least that's the plan. But there's a lot of like I was saying, the feedback loop. There's a lot of decisions along the way that are going to determine how we go about this.
Yeah.
So it's exciting though. Like that's the fun thing about game development. It's adaptive, and it's complex and interesting and fun to think about what's the best way to do it. How do you not over leverage yourself, and at the same time deliver what's best for the game and the team.
And
so
with that, I guess we kind of did story mode and console together. So
why are workshop items, stages, and modes coming so much later if workshop is coming out next year? And items are coming out next year. Workshop and items.
Oh, another question for me. Oh, thanks, Matt. Let me think about that one. So that's because right now, and also I saw a good question that's paired to this, which somebody asked, hey, you just talked about how hard UI is for you. Why is Workshop, why is Workshop not part of that, right? Workshop's a lot of UI, theoretically. So why isn't it also slowing down? So both those answers are because we are working with an external team, like we just mentioned, and a lot of teams do it for consoles. We ended up working with another team called SkyMap Games, who is a team full of engineers who mostly all do, work for hire on video games. And they do, one of their jobs is console porting, right? They do a lot of console porting. And their kind of claim to fame is that, hey, we have experts at a lot of different parts of game development that like your team as an indie might not have, right? So it's like, rather than, trying to spend a long time, hire somebody like a senior who's really good, right? It's like, is this possible to outsource some of the work? And we ended up working with them on Steam Workshop for Rivals 2. So there's 2 engineers on their team who work with us. And so we just focused on characters initially to answer Matt's question. And that's because Trevor had already like thought about characters in a way where we could kind of silo them out. We're going to be using Lua scripting to kind of handle a lot of the characters' behaviors, right? So, part of the work on our side and SkyMap side is exposing as much of the C++ code into functions that players can then use via Lua. And like the way we're doing that is going through the launch roster, right? So we started with Claren, which is actually surprising because like Claren is just a slight simpler than Zetterburn in that regard. But we start with Claren, we have Crag and Zetterburn as some of the other early ones we're doing. And it's like, okay, like make sure that this whole character can be made with Lua. And like just out of the gate, it can't, because there's a lot of, pillar, rock, fire, consuming, all that stuff needs to be, exposed and then scripted. So like one of the things that's nice though, compared to Rivals 1 is in Rivals 1, you couldn't necessarily recreate every character in the base roster one for one, because there's some stuff we did that was like unique to Rivals. But in Rivals 2, that's the goal, right? Where it's like every single character will be not only possible, but given to you as an example. And we're pushing for the launch 10. We'll see. We might do like a, if we can get to an open beta before, and there's only 5, we'd be fine with that. But we're going to try to get all 10 of the launch 10 characters as examples. And then the UI question part of it. So that's why we're doing characters first, is because we want to focus on them. We'll expose more stuff down the road, especially if workshop goes well. We want to keep working with SkyMap and then do more parts of the game, item stages and modes, as you see there. The UI is because, one, a lot of the UI stuff, at least the temp version, SkyMap is working on it, right? Their engineers are kind of setting it up. And then 2, the way workshop characters works at a bare minimum, like the most acceptable version to players, there's actually very minimal UI. Because it's just that box that replaces, that goes next to random. And then you select the characters in your player box, right? That little list, which both of those is like not, there's mock-ups and stuff to kind of see it, but it's not a ton. And then some of the other menus in Rivals 1 that were part of Workshop, right? Where you like uploaded the character and did some other stuff in the game. A lot of that is going to be handled in the mod kit this time. So like instead you're going to have, a download that you do and you can work in. That's like, a basically similar to Unreal, like a version of Unreal, which means a lot of the UI that it would be required for Workshop is like kind of less to do a V1. I think if Workshop grows and it's successful, then, the UI will start to increase, right? With Workshop items, being able to turn a bunch of Workshop items on and off, Workshop stages, right? You saw in Rivals 2, Rivals 1, how it's still a little confusing, Workshop stages. There's people who like, they download a bunch of stages and then they're like, oh, I guess they didn't download because they like don't know to click the second page. So all that will have more UI, but for characters, it's actually very limited UI when it comes to Workshop. So that's like why we're able to do it, even though, we're UI strapped, I guess you could say.
Right on. Yeah. So that's the roadmap, and that's why things are laid out the way they are. If you have any questions about that, I'd like to start answering those. Rottweiler, I saw your comment about getting CPU parry in practice mode. I wrote it down, so I'll look into that, see what we can do. See why it's not in already. Got a question about listen servers. Yes, we are doing some settings for listen servers right now. It's in progress. Would like to hear what you expect, so maybe give us some feedback on Nolt on what you think currently, but we are going to add some settings to listen servers, so that's great. And then I like this question about what's going to stop people from remaking the rest of the roster in Workshop. Nothing's going to stop them. We have promised that we will return all the characters from Rivals 1, both main cast and the Workshop pack or 4, the Workshop 4, to the game. Still a plan. Yeah, and then that way you won't have to go into the Workshop menu if you want to play Palm or Hodan or whoever. Yes, you will be able to play the Workshop version if they beat us to it. They probably will. And then you'll get to play our version of the character and see what Trevor's cooking.
Yeah, that scares me actually. That the fact that Workshop will be out before we're done with the returning characters. Let's not think about that. People just won't make them. They'll wait. Maybe. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
They make them, it'll be like, oh yes, I get my Sylvanos itch. I know a lot of people that.
I know, but then
fake snake images on the
thing that always makes me sad is like a lot of our characters, the development is so far back, right? So like, let's say we have a very similar idea for like, I don't know, ledge special. And we like already wrote it down, but then somebody makes a Workshop version of the character that's not out yet, and they do the same thing, and then they're like, they stole it from the Workshop, and it's like, no, we didn't, I swear. Or even just getting influenced by it. But it is going to take a lot of time to make characters too, as well. So even in the Workshop tools. So I just won't watch things, and if I do, I'll shut off my brain so I don't accidentally get biased by the ideas for the new moves that people are doing for characters that we haven't brought back yet. I did want to bring up somebody asked about listen servers. They said, why are they not GGPO if you had that in the past? So Rivals 2 runs on SnapNet, which is High Horse Entertainment's netcode solution, and it is a server-based rollback solution, and it is not input-based, it is state-based, which means there has to be a host, right? There is a game that is, the truth holder that is sending the states to everybody else. And that's also like, it is good for running, a bunch of people on, say we want, like, for example, like crew battles. Honestly, if we had not done SnapNet, we would not be doing crew battles, right? Because the way crew battles is going to work, it's 6 people, but only 2 people are playing at a time. And there's no way we would spend the time to make a 6-player mode where all 6 players are impacting the lag and only 2 are playing at a time, right? We would just like let, kind of how people did it in Rivals 1, right? If you want to do a crew battle, you'd have to like do it yourself. Just like how, you do crew battle on Melee, and each one would be its own connection, a peer-to-peer connection. But because we have a server-based solution, and because, you could set the server in Chicago and then all 6 people can come from, different parts of the world, and it's still playable. That's huge. Like, that's why we're able to do something like this. And then, the listen servers, I think right now the big thing is making sure we have like flags for, simulating the lag for the host so it feels the same as the opponent. That's something we wanted to get in when we launched it, but I believe that's coming in a future update, Matt, right? Isn't that like next patch or the patch after that we're getting it in?
We get it when we get it.
But yeah, it will be make it so you can use it at 1v1.
Because I have not tested it firsthand. It's right. What is it like? There are stages to it, right? So it's like we should have it by next patch, but
next patch is really soon for us. The patches are every 2 weeks, so it will be.
Oh, sorry, I meant
over. In a future patch.
But ideally October, but I need to test it. I need to see, if things break. I mean, I bet a lot of people here would be like, man, why do you guys release such buggy content? Yeah. I'm trying, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're at the size we're at, and the fact that we're only on Steam, like, that's kind of why that's happening, right? It's like, well, everyone would be waiting on it longer, and there's no guarantee that it would, like, let's say we launch stuff and it has 20 bugs on average, right? And some are big and some are small. If we held it a month or 2, then it means the content would be lighter this year, and maybe there's 10 bugs on average, right? Because like we were able to find those, but there's so many more interactions that players can do that we can do, right? Especially since like we have Luke on our team who's on QA, and like our programmers test as well, but we're not going to hit as many things. So like right now we're kind of at like a fire from the hip and then fix. As we get closer to console, we do want to change that, whether we're going to be doing more QA testing internally or working with, again, like we're working with SkyMap on Workshop. Maybe we'll be working with the external team to help on QA for before console. So ideally we'll have things more finished and buttoned up. But right now, based on our size, that's why you're kind of seeing like, hey, intermediate tutorials are out. And then it's like the next update, hey, here's a bunch of bug fixes for intermediate tutorials.
Yeah. Like we had to hotfix indicators.
They weren't even supposed to go out. That was just a minor miscommunication between some people on our team where, because Taz, who worked on the feature, went to PAX with us. And he was saying that, yes, they're on the branch ready to go, but not they are done and approved and ready to go.
Well, I tested them. We were able to replicate the bug that people are seeing where it just becomes a blob, becomes like an orange circle and the character's not in there. But to do that, we had to do like so many. It was like it's such a niche bug when we were testing it, right? And we tested it for 3 hours the Thursday before it came out, and to get that exact, to figure out the state at which you can recreate that. But then the thing that sunk it was optimization. And it's like, like how do I test that? It works on my PC, and
Right.
so we really need to emphasize the min spec and testing features on min spec before they go live. But the good news is that the feature as is, and the reason why, we went with it was you just turn it off, right? So, but
Yeah.
obviously we can't have
Yeah,
performance
our plan
chugging.
is once it's good to go, we're even going to have in the settings, for Steam Deck and stuff that you can turn it off. But I
I think
do
the default it's going to be off by default.
on Steam Deck, yeah, because we were actually able to identify. But I do think before we put it fully out, like it still does need to be optimized because like even on high end PCs, it's like dropping the FPS like more than we'd want, especially since it's like a cosmetic improvement over the current
Yeah.
ones. So we'll see what we
More
can
than
do.
anything, I think yeah, Luke has been out, and so that's been well, Luke is our QA, and so that's where we really were hurting.
Yeah. But hey, it wasn't ready to go.
Uh,
It wasn't supposed to be in the patch. There was something else that released that wasn't supposed to go, and then we just let it be out. We let it rock because it was done. Um, but that's again going back to like going from indie. Like I'm sure at Team Cherry size at 3 rivals for a bit, there was basically only 3 people in like actual the source control of Rivals 1. It'd be like me, Trevor, and Geek maybe at that point. Um, so a lot harder to have those kinds of things. Now there's like, 20 people in the Rival 2 source control. So yeah, it's just a lot more people and a lot easier to have those kinds of things happen.
yeah, yeah. You all are going to see next year. We're going to switch our release cadence in lead up to getting the team to more of what console is going to look like. So console, you have to go through certification, and so you need to have patches done well in advance so that they can, go through lock and then go through cert. And so, hopefully, you guys don't hate us for having this new cadence, but it's going to be healthier for our team, and it's going to just be able to make it to where we can do less shoot from the hip and more solidified, awesome patches that are good from on day one.
Yeah.
Is something wrong with replays? Please fix replays. Uh-oh.
Well, they have to explain more details, but yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, get that added to the smoke test.
Kels and Wall's on our team, so Kels is our video editor. He's done a lot of work on like the replay feature, trying to get it something that he would use, right? Because he does the character trailers and uses a lot of custom cameras in Unreal. And then Walls is a programmer on our team who does training mode, tutorials, arcade mode, replay mode, trials.
Mm-hmm.
All of those from Walls. So if you like any of those features, go on Twitter, find Walls, say thanks Walls, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked if we're hiring more UI. We have hired more UI, and we're probably going to see how the capacity of the team that is coming in.
Yeah, we'll see how we are. So yeah.
And then someone asked, will you have the option to have more than one stock per player in crew battle mode?
I don't know what options we're going to commit to for lobbies, but like the main hope for me for crew battle mode is like getting the match made one pretty solid, and that there will be no options, right? Because it's like a set rules. So one of the things with the matchmaking that we're looking for is it's going to be 3v3. So if you have one person, you're by yourself, you can play ranked, you can play casual, you can play crew battles, you can queue up by yourself because you can queue up as 1, 2, or 3. You can play, the other ones, but mostly you can play a 1v1 by yourself. If you have 2 people, you can either play doubles with your friend or you can play each other, right? So that's a use case. If you have 4 people, you can play doubles together, you can play free-for-all together. But right now, in Smash in general and in Rivals, there's nothing to do if there's 3 of you online, right? So you and 2 other friends. So like the main match made mode will be like, hey, it's 3 players, you all have your own crew rating. It averages that to decide your team rating, and then it tries to find a team as close to you as possible, whether that's 3 other people who queued up, or people who queued up individually who get put on a team. And then you each get 1 stock. It's gonna be best of 3. So the way it's gonna work is it's like a 3-person. You each get 3. You do a fight, then you get to pick your stage. Your counter pick. If you lose, sets over. If you win, best of 3, just like ranked. So a little different from a traditional crew battle where the stocks go between games. It's more like squad strike, but each stock is a different person. And then in lobbies, Beth will be working on it. We'll probably let you at least do you can do 4-player instead of 3 in lobbies, right? Because lobbies go up to 8 people. So you could do like a 2v2 crew, a 3v3 crew, or a 4v4 crew. Ideally, maybe we'll let you change the stocks as well. It wouldn't be hard. We would just have to say does it keep rotating? Do you get your stocks in a row? We'd have to design that kind of stuff. But right now, I personally am mostly focused on getting the match made one as good as possible. And then when it gets put into lobbies, it will be that will be the B part of the feature. And that point, we'll just add things that we know we'll add things that people are asking for.
Cool. Want to answer some other questions. Someone asked if any developers are going to the Colorado Showcase at the end of October. I plan to be there. Now, I am also a huge college football fan, so I've been watching a lot of games and not having fun on the weekends with my wife, so I might have to pivot and do something with her that weekend, so she comes first. But I plan to be there. And then... yeah, a lot of people asking about new characters and when things hey y'all, we hope that you like the characters that we release when we release them. Tell us in the note who you want to see. It's a combination of draw from the community what characters have been asking, but mostly it's just tech. It's we have these awesome plans for these characters, and we got to make sure that we're not overstressing the team by having too many complicated characters in a year. So that is a big factor in the decision making as to when characters come out as well. But yes, we plan to release 4 a year. And then we've got 5 more minutes. Does anyone? Yeah, I'm here to answer questions, so please let us know.
Yeah, I saw a question. So people still kind of are locked in on something I said on, I believe it's Pirate's stream, about how we're trying to do a 50-50 balance between new and returning. And that's the overall goal. And then they use that to guess. They're okay, I knew Galvin was going to be new because Dan said that back in 2024. And therefore Galvin had to be new. And I was right. And I'm a genius. I will say 2 things. One, it's not that specific. Okay. So yes, you can all have your guesses and you can use that, and that's fine. And I did say that, and that is still a goal, but it is not good. It's over the long term. Okay. So just in fantasy football, if you have a good player and he has a bad game, that does over the long term of the season, he could still be a good player. Okay. So over the long term, still kind of balancing newcomers and returning characters to do both. We're not just going to do all returning characters and get the whole cast playable. We want to do both. So that was the high level. And 2, I'm going to do the opposite of that, what I just said, and throw you a bone in terms of the people who like to speculate and say something that is probably unexpected, but I consider La Reina, who is already confirmed for next year, to be a returning character and not a newcomer. And people on our team do not agree with me, but I consider it because 1, she's fully playable, has a full moveset in Rivals 1 that's sick. And 2, because she is so sick and the creators did such a good job, because that's why we picked her, we do want to retain as much of her moveset as possible, right? Obviously we have to add new, the missing specials and grabs and throws, etc. But even Olympia had a couple changes, and some characters might have more changes, some ones that aren't out yet because they might need it. But we're trying to retain La Reina as much as possible, and I consider her returning. So if that, I don't know, that might throw people's speculation off for 2026 predictions. But I consider Lorena to be a returning character.
Got a couple more questions about characters. You guys have a ballpark idea of when all the returning characters will be back by? No. But so for what it's worth, we have a meeting every month where we kind of just do a status check of all the characters that we want added to the game. These are new designs and old, returning character designs, and we kind of just think about what makes sense, and give action items. So no, there's some characters that that are returning that we don't know what we want to do with in Rivals 2. There are new designs where they have some issues they need to get worked out before they're ready to go into development. And then to pair that with how many characters how many characters are in the works at a time, and how active is each character's development before their launch. So characters go through like 3 or 4 stages. Stage 1 is like the concept design phase, where it's all 2D illustrations and paper designs, and then that will move to gameplay. Once that's approved, gameplay takes about 2 months. It's adding very rough animations where you focus on mostly the poses, and just getting the mechanics in there. And then we don't stop that character, but we kind of like put that character on ice, and that becomes that character gets added to the rotation of characters that we play internally in our weekly test. And so like we're feeling the character out, making sure that the gameplay for the character is good, nothing super broken, nothing super oppressive or cheaty. And so we'll let that character cook, for a while. And then after 2 months of gameplay with another character, all of these things vary. Sometimes characters are more complex, and it takes 4 months to do the gameplay stage, and so you just got to be adaptive. But so we'll have, probably on average, like 4 characters going at one time. Like all the characters are coming out next year, or all in progress the year before. And so we're getting those characters to gameplay, and then as soon as those characters' gameplay, animations, and design are done, then we move on to final animation. And then sometimes that involves like updating the gameplay to address some of the issues that we've identified. So that's kind of the how the sauce is, or how the sausage is made for characters.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. From beginning to end, a character is like a lot of our characters in development for like 2 years, right? If you're thinking like from the moment that they start beyond paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously a character doesn't take 2 years to make. Like straight.
It's a lot of in progress, on ice, in progress, on ice, and it intentionally so, because that allows it to breathe. If it's just like, go, we have to complete this character as soon as possible, then we're not giving us time to evaluate and decide. We're going to have a lot of wasted work, because we're going to get to the end where we've added gameplay, final, perfect art, perfect everything, ready for release, and we go, this move is oppressive. This move is not fun. This move is too hard to do. And then now we got to go back to the drawing board, start from the beginning, and redo a move, and that's a lot of wasted work. So we intentionally build like slack time to allow us to feel out the character before we push more quality into it.
And we did that on Rivals 1. That's the thing. But Rivals 1 was like lower risk. Like there were characters, Sylvanos, Eliana, hey Sonny, where they got moves replaced, right? Eliana got a new up air like, I don't know, a week or 2 after she launched, which like we don't want to do that, right? Because it is more work this time around, right? To make a change like that and have it all, multiple people are doing it instead of just me and Alien, as like the 2 of us are the only ones who have to worry. But then also, the longer it's out, people don't like it, right? Like a lot of people are like, hey, they'll say on Trello, hey, this character needs a redesign. You need to fix it. Clarence should be deleted from the game. But then if we actually went and like redesigned a whole move, like people are used to how their character plays. So it's like even some of the nerfs we're hitting kind of hit a chord in, regards of how the character feels. So like completely replacing, say, a neutral special, for example, is a pretty massive change and something we'd only want to do, if it was absolutely necessary.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
We had some questions a while back about like, are we going to do any spin-off games? Are we going to do any more comics or lore videos? Why do we hate Bradshaw? Yeah. Question about Echo Fighters. Yeah. Any thoughts on that stuff, Dan?
Yeah, I'll hop on it a bit. So, yes, we want to keep doing lore, right? Obviously, story mode is our chance to tell more story, but honestly, that would be like, in my mind, that would be pretty contained. Like the story mode that you saw in the Kickstarter and other places is kind of like, a continuation of like a chapter 2 to the Rivals 1 story mode. So like, yes, character trailers is still the main spot where we're telling stories. So you saw in the Galvin trailer, like you got to see art from Mark and like voice acting from both a new voice acting for Ayala and then Fleet. So we'll continue doing that. Spin-offs, I right now the studio is fully focused on Rivals 2. There is ideas and like games that we'd like to make in Game Maker still, similar to what Geek did with Dreams of Ether, which was like a much smaller game that we kind of, his studio developed it, we published it. So like there are ideas, and I think, for us, we'd like to have like a small person team, like around 5 people working on a spin-off, but only if it makes sense for our studio. Like Matt and I we still work on spin-offs. So like even if we're like, hey, it's separate people, there is a cost to our studio to be able to manage all of that. And then Echo Fighters, Bradshaw, all part of it. We for a while did talk about the idea of Echo Fighters, right? Even here, Renburn, you can see him on screen listed as a legendary skin. It's like, well, if you're gonna do voice, you're gonna do VFX, why not just like change some of his attack properties? And like we considered it. One of the things that like made us kind of not want to go that route is Echo Fighters would be if it's using the same rig and a lot of the same animations, that character would come out, and then let's say you like Renburn more and he has a different down B or something, and he has a couple different attacks, whatever, and Fox versus Falco is the comparison. He wouldn't have any skins, right?
Yep.
He would launch with just his default. And then some of the Zetterburn skins change Zetterburn so much, right? That if you're playing Mecha Zetterburn versus Renburn, and then let's say Renburn was an Echo, and then eventually we make Mecha Renburn. Now we have to make sure Mecha Zetterburn and Mecha Renburn are so different looking and also represent themselves so much that some person watching a tournament can watch the stream and know, hey, this person's Renburn and this person's Zetterburn. So like, because we were already thinking the game's going to last for a long time and have a lot of skins, we're like kind of scared of Echo Fighters as being so close. I think for us, like if we did someone like Bradshaw, it would be its own character. It wouldn't be an Echo. And even then it would have to have its own rig and its own silhouette that feel different from Raster. Or it would have to be like in fun modes, we introduce a way like that we just reuse the legendary skins and then give them a couple of new moves, right? So imagine, I don't know, there's some like multiplayer mode that's like more for fun, and then inside that, Renburn could be different. That's how we're thinking of it now, and that's why like we didn't say early on like, oh, we're gonna do a bunch of Echo Fighters, because with how we're doing skins, it would make, I don't know, just for me personally, it make things really confusing, and it would also mean like, do you really want to release a bunch of characters that that like people already complain right now because some characters are hard to make skins for, so they have less? Would you really want the roster to be like Renburn has 2 skins, Bradshaw has 1 skin, and like how would we decide when we make a skin? Is it going to go for Raster? Is it going to go for Bradshaw? So like for all those reasons, we've kind of leaned away from Echo Fighters.
Too complicated with our systems. Not a lot of questions to answer. I want to say something about servers and services. So people have been asking like, are you going to be able to keep the skins on your account and switch them over to Xbox or PlayStation or Switch. That is the plan. Now, I should say, like, we can't promise or guarantee any of this at this time. We have to, get to that point and see if the infrastructure that we've set up now, with the intent of doing that later, that's the intent, actually works as we expect. I'm told it should all work. I'm told that the features that or the tools that we work with, PlayFab, can do that. I should say there's been some comments on the Reddit of like people being like, "Yo, SnapNet's down again. Are we sure about this SnapNet?" A lot of the time when we have server issues, it's unfortunately PlayFab, which, don't get me wrong, PlayFab is a super awesome tool. We love working with them, but it's funny because it's a loss of service and it affects a lot of games too, right? So we'll be just caught up in the loss of service from PlayFab, and people will blame the servers, and it's like,
Yeah, but then even the PlayFab ones are coming from like an Azure outage, like up the ladder. So yeah,
right.
There's lots of things that can make it go down.
Yeah,
One thing I will say though, so like the goal for cross progression is everything will work, but there is like a little bit of limitations in terms of what the consoles allow. I think the one limitation is like all your inventory will cross, but if you buy bucks on PC, then you have to, those bucks will not show up on your console. So basically like your bucks would still be 0, but then if you spend them on a skin, that skin would be on your console. So like if you bought bucks on both, you could have a different amount of bucks on both. And I think that's just because that's how, the consoles lay out the law of the land, right? Like you can't buy the currency on one and use it on another. You have to basically, if you buy bucks on PC, you got to spend them there. And if you buy bucks on consoles, you got to spend them there. So like your actual buck number won't cross. I believe your coins can, since they're earned through play. Like that shouldn't be an issue. But like the actual amount of ether bucks you have would be like on one system, even if everything else is ideally cross progression and cross play. As Matt mentioned, that's our goal.
Yeah, so we gotta see what it looks like. Can't make any promises. Like, I can't even promise you that we're gonna get the private lobby or player lobby settings next month, even though that's on the roadmap. That's in a couple weeks, right? And that's because I don't know the unknowns. When we go down that dark alley, it's something jump out and beaten with a bat. Like that's that's the world we got to live in. I often tell the studio, like, we live by the don't get hit by a bus, mentality. Like we don't plan to be, gone. We don't plan to, miss an amount of time, but like you never know what the day brings, and so like you just have to make sure all your bases are covered and you're not putting the studio in a compromised position by not covering your butt, or making sure things are handed off.
Yeah. And yeah, we don't want to get hit by the bus.
Matt, are you a producer or are you 10 producers fused into one? I don't know. See, Dan often asks me, what does a producer do? And I don't think Dan, really knows. Like,
but what do they do? Like, what do you do though, Matt? Like, what do you do spiritually?
Yeah, I don't know. I can say through so I'm a big hobby horse about this. We do surveys every year where I ask for feedback from the studio. Maybe people are just trying to get on my good side, but they say a lot of really nice things about how we do production at Ether Studios. People are very happy with the creative freedom and trust that we have with everybody to kind of just own what they're working on, as opposed to like having someone being very micromanagey about the exact details of like, here's the design, here, don't mess with it, you do exactly as I have laid out. We kind of say, this is our goal, this is our intent, you go solve those problems. So I feel like it's all about how you look at production. Some would say that this is bad production because there's a lot of question marks when it gets to somebody. Some would say it's good production because we have a healthy ownership of task where people, feel like they're empowered to make decisions. So here nor there. I have my book. No, my book's upstairs. But The book I go back to is a book about Pixar. It's Creativity Inc. If anyone was interested in production, I recommend starting there. It's the book's called Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull. He's the president, or was the president of Pixar, and kind of was there at the inception of it and all of the wildness as that animation studio became the dominant animation studio in the world. So yeah, great lessons in that book. Check it out. And yeah, that's kind of my ethos about how I approach what we do.
I think we got to shout out Miguel though too, because the question was, are you 10 producers? And maybe you were last year, but this year you're only like what, 7 producers?
Yeah, maybe 5. Miguel does a lot. Yeah, like right after release, I just realized that I was burning from both ends. Like I realized that I was not servicing the studio in feature planning and protection and like understanding the burn rate at which we can get things done, while also being like, hey, is this in playfab? What's our plan for next month? Is this skin done? Doing all the what we call in the industry live service production. Was not testing anything. I was not testing anything, and that felt horrible. And I'm just like, flying by the seat. I just didn't have time, And Dan's like, "What candidates are we having for this position?" I'm like, "You wanted me to do that too." So Miguel has been absolutely awesome. I worked with him in the past at 6 Foot. It was an easy hire to make because I knew Miguel was just really great to work with.
Yeah, we love Miguel. Maybe we'll get Miguel on a dev stream next. But yeah, he has taken the live production side. So every update, it's like what items are going in the shop. The skin bundles, what are they priced at? Even like, maintaining like once we get later, closer to it, like the actual features and coordinating with the community team so they can tell you, hey, listen, servers made it, or hey, this feature didn't make it, and put it to the next month. Miguel is helping with that. So yeah.
When we have a plan, when we have a cosmetics plan for next year, that's the stream Miguel should be on.
I don't know
that reveal.
Yeah,
We don't want to like announce all the skins that are coming next year, but just the general idea of how we're going to do things next year would be good to talk through with Miguel.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one for sure.
Hopefully Miguel is not learning new information in that stream, but
well, a lot of it comes from me, so things could change in the stream, and then afterwards I'm like, all right, good, let's go change everything. So you never know.
I thought about
it. Cool. Well, that's a good last question, because we are at 11:30 exactly here on Pacific time, so hour and a half dev stream. That's a good amount. Yeah, Matt, any last words to close this one out?
That just wanted to say appreciate everyone. Shout out to the Colorado local scene. Tyler, Raven, Hada, all the people from my Colorado local. I'll see you all in October. Yeah, and then shout out to this team. Everybody works very hard at Ether Studios. Very proud of this team, and I look forward to work every day. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thanks for being on the stream. It was an awesome one. So we'll see you all next week, hopefully.